Troy, last week, Peyton Manning kind of encouraged both the Denver Broncos and Demaryius Thomas to get it together, to get Demaryius Thomas in camp. Were the Broncos bothered by Peyton sticking his nose, so to speak, in another player's business?
Well, in his public comments, he's been very shrewd in saying he would like him there, he'd want to see it get done, but that's Demaryius' issue, it's business. I mean, it was reported by the NFL Network that Peyton's really upset. That does not jibe with what I was told by people close to him. I'm not saying the report's wrong, it just does. I haven't been able to confirm that information, that he's in any way upset. Would he prefer he's there? Of course, he's Peyton Manning. But outside of Brett Favre 1 year in a contract negotiation with a receiver, guys stay out of this because it's a no-win when you start involving yourself in someone else's money. That's the one hot-button issue in any locker room I've ever been in. So would Peyton prefer he's in there less? Of course. Is he upset, per se? I have not gathered that. I haven't been able to confirm that independently. Peyton's running the offense. He's running it with guys who are out there. I don't believe he's... Now, if it were Emmanuel Sanders and he'd only played with him for 1 year, perhaps, he and Demaryius Thomas have been in lockstep for how many years, no matter the offense, whether it was Peyton's first offense, the one with Gaze, or this one. Catching Demaryius Thomas up, I don't think will be a problem.
Hey.
But will he be at camp? That's the interesting thing. Would he hold out just to show his dissatisfaction with if they can't get a deal done? Which at this point, I would say it's less likely they get a long-term deal done, with unless something changes in talks. And secondly, would he hold out to minimize his own risk? That point, it gets dicey. He starts missing training camp time, then all bets are off, and it becomes a much bigger issue.
Troy, Woody wrote in his column on Sunday that Peyton Manning still has a lot left in his tank. Don't write him off. I've been saying the same thing. I think he looks good the few times I've been out to camp over the last month. Give me your assessment of what you're seeing, hearing about Peyton Manning.
I see a guy who's an elite athlete who's been challenged, who has doubt in front of him for the first time since his neck surgery. And typically when athletes like that are challenged, it's really hard to give up on them. And in his case, he looks ready, he looks refreshed, he looks stronger, he's moving around. He hasn't been hit, and they're not in pads. I get that. But what I like about it, Les, is he is all in with this offense. He's running through drills like he's an 8th grade kid learning a new offense. He's showing enthusiasm and passion for this change, and they are working with him along the way. So the offense is, a little bit of Kubiak, and then when it's at the line of scrimmage, maybe that's where Peyton gets a little more control. I mean, the way they are going about this gives them a chance of success. And I've asked players, just like you said, because we don't see a lot, the players said they don't notice anything, both publicly and privately, anything to indicate that Peyton is just nosediving. So, again, the one issue I have, he's sack-proof. Woody and I know this, Les, you know this. But if he starts getting hit after the throw, that's where trouble could come in. And that is a realistic concern given the youth along their offensive line.
Troy, let me follow up on that. Since you covered both teams, I don't see that, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but it's going to sound that way. I don't see this as a Todd Helton kind of final year where Todd really just didn't have the same ability. And he did come up with a good year his last year, but it was not 330 and 25 home runs or anything. I don't see a comparison. Do you see a comparison?
I only see a comparison in how driven they are to prove people wrong, and just that fire and that idea, that chip, that type A personality, that unhealthy competitive nature they have. I see similarities. Todd would hit after games for an hour until his hands bled. He's 38 years old, and they would try to tell him less is more because you're just going to hurt your back. So I see some of the similarities. You're right. Todd's last few years, he wasn't an elite player. Offensively, he was a good player, but he wasn't an elite because he didn't have the power. Peyton Manning is doing stuff to the record book at his age, his 16th and 17th season. He had 94 touchdown passes in his 16th and 17th season. The next closest is Y.A. Tittle and Brett Favre at 46. And even last year, for all of Peyton's problems at the end of the year, he's a pretty good quarterback. He's a pretty good quarterback. And this idea that, the AFC West is suddenly for the taking with Alex Smith, captain check down. You know, Philip Rivers is a great player, but he's the one guy that can outplay Manning statistically, perhaps. But the rest of the division, I mean, give me a break. Why wouldn't you want Manning? I mean, he's better than everyone else in the division, and he's better than most AFC quarterbacks not named Andrew Luck and Tom Brady.
Here, here. Hey, Troy, thanks for the time, man.
All right, guys, take care.
All right, Troy
I'll
Renck
try
of the
not to
Denver
call you.
Post.